Are you suffering from hip pain, knee pain, or low back pain during your leg workouts? Stick around because today I got a 3-exercise banded stretching routine for you. All right, first exercise, we're gonna be doing a mid-hamstring dynamic stretch. So we're gonna use a 41-inch loop style resistance band, and we don't need to go that heavy. So like this one, I'm a stronger dude. I'm using a 35-pound resistance band. You can use like the red, which is 15 pounds, and that'll work just fine. The biggest thing here, we're trying to use the band to engage our antagonistic muscle. So we're gonna be doing a mid-hamstring stretch, and we're gonna be taking this band, wrapping it around kind of the ball of our foot to give us some tension here. And then we're gonna plant our off leg firmly into the wall and keeping it straight and keeping this hip firmly on the floor. We're just gonna lean back. You might need to scoot down a little bit so that you can kind of drive that leg into the wall and keep it straight. And then we're gonna reach up and grab, roughly like 6 to 12 inches from our foot, and we're gonna pull that band kind of down into the floor to give us some tension. And then all we're gonna be doing here is kind of finding that end range of motion, and then we're gonna be pumping against that band. So we're gonna straighten our leg, get this leg as high up as you can go so that you can get this thing almost 95% straight and pushing against that band. And then we're just gonna let that tension off. And like I said, we're working the antagonistic muscle here. So we're gonna be pushing with our quads to extend this out, which will in turn help to relax the hamstring and get a really good deep stretch. And then the fact that we're kind of doing this pulsing rhythmic style stretching, that's going to really help to loosen up the nerves. So most times with these hamstring stretches, we're working more into the nerves than we are to the actual muscle, because your nerves are what's limiting and creating that pain when you get to that end range of motion. And this rhythmic exercise is going to help to release it. And again, you just want to be to that point where you can get this leg as straight as possible. Some people might be way up here. Obviously, I'm not flexible enough for that. Or you might be way down here when you're starting. The biggest thing is find where that sweet spot is. We're at that very extended position. You're kind of feeling that, ooh, that kind of hurts, kind of pain. And that's where you want to be going into this. And as you get better, the more reps you do, you're going to work your way all the way up. And again, keep that band nice and light. And we're doing, a few sets of like 15, 20 reps, nice and slow and controlled. And that's really gonna help to loosen that hamstring up in the mid hamstring. Next, we're gonna flow into our next exercise. Keep that same setup. We're gonna stretch now the medial portion of our hamstring as well as the groin. So we're basically gonna take this band, lay back, get that wall, the off foot firmly planted into the wall just like we did before. And now we're gonna take this band, and I kind of like to just loop my hand through it and just wrap it around the back of my head. And we're not gonna be placing a lot of tension on the neck here, because we're gonna grab this band, take the tension off with our dominant, or the arm that's the same as the limb that we're stretching. So this one, in this case, it's my right arm. And then all we're gonna be doing now is taking this leg out to the side and just kicking it out straight. And again, we're keeping that off leg and hip firmly planted into the floor. And we're just gonna kick this leg out. And we're kind of gonna drive it as parallel and flat with the floor as possible. So you might end up having to start like out here if you're not super flexible, but then we're gonna work our way kind of down, pulling into this medial portion of our hamstring and the groin. This is where that hip mobility is really gonna come in strong. And the fact that we're kind of compressing, bending our knee all the way up here, that gives you that full range of motion. And then also be sure that when you're doing this, keeping that leg straight on the ground, your knee is gonna wanna pick up, fight against that. That's really gonna stretch into that mid side of the groin here. Now for the third exercise, we're just gonna flow right in. So we were straight, now we went open, now we're gonna go across and we're gonna hit the lateral side of the hamstring and also get some more glute involvement. So it's the same setup as before. I'm stretching the right leg, got my left leg planted into the wall nice and firmly. And now we're gonna kick this leg over across our body, and we're gonna wrap that band right up around our neck, compressing, folding this knee up. And then we're gonna keep that back as flat on the floor as possible, left leg straight, and we're just gonna kick this leg straight out and across. I like to get a little bit of a twist into my low back just because I feel like it kind of loosens up that SI joint, gets a little bit more mobility, and then it helps me to be able to kick a little further across, and then we're straightening that leg out, and now you're gonna feel that stretch on this lateral outside portion of your hamstring. And again, we're grabbing this band, giving ourselves some more tension so that we're fighting that end range of motion. There shouldn't really be any tension here. The band's just kind of flopping, so you can really do what you want with it. It doesn't really matter. Big thing here, nice rhythmic stretching, stretching into that nerve tissue, fighting against that end point of motion where the pain comes on from the stretching, and just kicking against it, nice and slow and controlled. Exhale on the way out, inhale on the way in, and again, keep this fluid. And for yourself, you can work up higher, you can work lower. The big thing here is to try to keep that pelvis as flat on the floor as possible. The off leg, left leg in my case, flat on that floor, and just kicking through this. Big pause at the end of that range of motion, big stretch, and just stretch it out. And again, you can flow through all three of these nice and easy. And you'll find that once you go through the first set of 3, the second set you'll be looser and looser. I usually like to do kind of like 2 to 3 sets of 15 reps of each, kind of work through, and then I'll switch legs and go to the other side. I like to incorporate these exercises a few times a week, usually. So I do like 2 leg workouts, and I usually like to incorporate them right before my leg workouts, and then I'll do another one that's kind of like equally spaced between the 3. I find that for myself, that at least 3 times a week keeps everything nice and loose, and I don't feel that tightness like I used to before doing this. Even with the static stretching, I used to static stretch a lot, and I just feel like the dynamic version of this with the bands and the fact that we're kind of going through that range of motion and training that end range and really fighting to kind of keep progressing beyond that end range of motion with the bands, it just helps so much more than a static stretch. And also with that dynamic motion, you're getting that hip mobility involved as well, just so that everything moves nice and freely and stays flexible. So if you like this video, be sure to smash that like button. Also, if you want to see more content like this, check out the on-screen video links. We got tons of content on our channel to help you get better at home. Furthermore, if you need any of the bands or accessories shown today, head over to clenchfitness.com and we will hook you up. And thank you for watching.